If you've spent years avoiding ice cream because of your diabetes, I owe you an apology on behalf of my profession. A clinical trial published in Frontiers in Nutrition in 2024, conducted at the Dasman Diabetes Institute on type 2 diabetic patients, confirmed something most doctors still don't tell you. The ice cream you've been afraid to touch has a glycemic index of 37. Whole wheat bread is 74. White rice is 72. The dessert you gave up the day you were diagnosed raises your blood sugar more slowly than the toast you ate this morning. But I have to be honest with you because I see this in my practice every week. After giving up ice cream, you reached for what felt safer. Frozen yogurt, sugar-free pints with that reassuring blue label, light or fat-free brands you trusted. And some of those substitutes are quietly raising your blood sugar more than the ice cream you sacrificed. Today I'm giving you back 5 ice creams you can safely bring home, and warning you about 3 misleading you under words like diabetes-friendly. Pay attention to number 5 in the good list. It costs under $2 per serving and beats every premium brand. Stay to the end because number 1 in the warning list may be in your freezer right now. Tell me something first. How many years has it been since you enjoyed a real bowl of ice cream without guilt? Type the number in the comments below. And if this conversation feels useful, subscribe. Like keeping in touch with a family doctor you trust. Now let me explain the science that changes everything. Here is what was missed in all those warnings you received. Ice cream is not the enemy of your blood sugar. The kind of ice cream is. And the difference comes down to what I call the 3 breaks. When you eat real, full-fat ice cream, the cream itself slows down how fast your stomach empties. That is break number 1. The dairy protein triggers a hormone called GLP-1, the very same hormone that drugs like Ozempic try to imitate. That is break 2. And the cold temperature forces your stomach to warm the food before it can even begin digestion. Break 3. 3 natural breaks, working together on every spoonful. That 2024 clinical trial I mentioned, conducted at the Dasman Diabetes Institute, tested real type 2 diabetes patients eating different kinds of ice cream and measured their actual glucose response. The differences between products were not small. They were dramatic. The breaks work, but only when the product still has them intact. In the 5 choices I am about to give you, at least one of those 3 breaks is working powerfully. That is why they belong back in your freezer. Let's start with number 1. And this is the one I want you to try first because it is the gentlest on your blood sugar and the easiest to make. Cottage cheese ice cream. I know what you're thinking. Cottage cheese in ice cream? Trust me on this. When you blend full-fat cottage cheese until it's completely smooth and then freeze it, the texture comes out almost identical to soft serve. But here is the magic. A single half-cup serving gives you about 14 grams of protein. That is roughly 3 times the protein in a typical scoop of ice cream. Why does that matter so much for your body? 14 grams of protein hits hard on that GLP-1 hormone I mentioned earlier. It nearly doubles the time food sits in your stomach, which means glucose trickles into your bloodstream slowly and gently. No sharp spike, no crash an hour later. And there is something specific to your stage of life that almost nobody talks about. After 60, your body naturally starts losing muscle. Doctors call it sarcopenia. Every gram of protein you can fit into your day helps slow that loss. So you are not just protecting your blood sugar, you are protecting your strength, your balance, your independence. Here is the recipe. 1 cup of full-fat cottage cheese. And I mean full fat, not the reduced version. The fat is doing real work here. Add 1 tablespoon of allulose or erythritol, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and a handful of frozen berries if you want. Blend until silky, freeze for 2 to 3 hours, give it a stir, and eat. About 120 calories per half cup with only 5 to 7 grams of carbs. But I know cottage cheese is not for everyone, so if you want something more familiar, number 2 is something that tastes closer to the ice cream you remember. Homemade frozen Greek yogurt. And I need to stress that word, homemade. Because the frozen yogurt sitting in your supermarket freezer and the frozen yogurt you make in your kitchen are 2 completely different products. Hold on to that thought. I will come back to it in the warning list. When you freeze full-fat Greek yogurt at home, you get a texture as creamy as traditional ice cream, but you also get 8 to 10 grams of protein per serving, the natural fat that acts as one of those 3 breaks, and something extra that matters enormously after 60, live probiotic cultures. Lactobacillus and the other beneficial bacteria in real Greek yogurt have been shown to gradually improve insulin sensitivity over weeks and months, so you are not just dodging a single spike. You are slowly retraining how your body handles glucose altogether. But please, please listen carefully. It must be full-fat Greek yogurt. The fat-free version strips away one of the most important breaks in this entire system. Without that fat, glucose enters your blood faster, and the whole protective effect collapses. The recipe is simple. 2 cups of full-fat plain Greek yogurt, 2 tablespoons of allulose or erythritol, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, a handful of berries. Pour it into an ice cream maker, or just put it in a freezer-safe container and stir every 30 minutes until firm. Let me tell you about Catherine. 68 years old, walked into my office months ago, having given up every dessert in her house after her HbA1c hit 8.1. 3 months later, she came back. The number on her chart said 6.9. She looked at me almost embarrassed and said, "Doctor, I have to confess something. I have been eating frozen yogurt every single night after dinner." I asked her to explain. Half a cup, homemade, made exactly the way I just described. Every night after a proper dinner, served in this small glass cup, her mother's, she told me. Because in her words, if I eat from the carton, I will eat the whole carton. That small cup did what 6 months of strict deprivation could not. If you don't have time to make your own, there is a store-bought option I want you to know about. Number 3 is for the nights when you walk in from a long day and you simply do not have the energy to blend, freeze, and stir. You need something you can pull straight from the carton. And here is the good news. That option now exists in almost every major supermarket in America. Ice cream sweetened with erythritol and stevia. Both of these sweeteners have a glycemic index of 0. Erythritol passes through your body almost completely unchanged. It never gets broken down into glucose. Stevia comes from a plant leaf and has been used as a sweetener for centuries in South America. Neither one provokes an insulin response in any meaningful way. 3 brands I trust you to find. Halo Top, particularly the Golden Blondie and Vanilla Bean flavors. About 21 grams of carbs per 2/3 cup. Available at Walmart, Target, and Costco. Enlightened Keto line. Only 1 gram of net carbs per serving. The strictest option if you want tight control. And so delicious, no sugar added. Made on a coconut milk base. Perfect if dairy gives you trouble. When you read the label, look for erythritol and stevia leaf extract near the top of the ingredient list. That is your green light. One honest warning. After 60, the gut can become more sensitive to sugar alcohols. Erythritol in large amounts can cause bloating in some people. So please, start with a 1/4 cup, not the 1/2 cup the label suggests. See how your body responds before going bigger. A quick check-in before I keep going. Have you ever brought home a pint of Halo Top or Enlightened? Tell me in the comments which flavor you tried and what your glucose meter showed an hour or 2 later. Your real-world experience matters far more than any number printed on a carton, and other people watching this video need to hear it. And please, stay with me through number 5, because number 5, the one I teased at the start of this video, costs less than $2 a serving, beats every single commercial product I have just named, and you almost certainly already have the ingredients in your kitchen. Now let me introduce you to a sweetener almost nobody over 60 has heard of, and the science behind it was published just last year. Number 4, ice cream sweetened with allulose. And this one deserves your full attention because what the science says about it is genuinely new. In 2024, a meta-analysis was published in the journal Metabolism Open. Researchers Ayesh and colleagues pooled together 6 clinical trials covering 126 patients with type 2 diabetes. The conclusion stopped me cold when I first read it. Allulose did not just stay neutral on blood sugar the way erythritol does. Allulose actively lowered post-meal glucose levels. It reduced the total area under the glucose curve. It cut down the time patients spent above the safe blood sugar threshold. Let me put that in plain language. Erythritol is like a neutral passenger. It rides along, it doesn't help, it doesn't hurt. Allulose is more like an extra brake. A fourth brake on top of the 3 natural ones we talked about earlier. It actually pulls glucose down. 2 brands I want you to know by name. Rebel Ice Cream, built on a base of full-fat heavy cream with 0 added sugar. Real-world data from people wearing continuous glucose monitors shows their blood sugar rises only about 15 milligrams per deciliter after a serving. That is remarkably low. The second is Nick's Swedish Style, a blend of allulose, erythritol, and stevia with a wide variety of flavors that taste closer to traditional ice cream than almost anything else in this category. You will find these at Whole Foods, at Sprouts, at Kroger, and slowly they are appearing at Walmart and Target. I will be honest with you about the cost. These run $6 to $7 a pint. They are more expensive than Halo Top. This is the option for someone who wants the best blood sugar outcome from a commercial product and is willing to invest a little more for it. All 4 of these I just shared are genuinely excellent, but number 5, the one I promised at the very start of this video, you will not find it in any supermarket freezer. Number 5, the one I have been teasing since the opening of this video, a simple frozen banana, turned into something that beats every commercial product I have just named, at any price. I know how this sounds. Let me show you the science, because this is where it gets remarkable. A fresh banana has a glycemic index of around 51. Not terrible, but not what you want either. But here is what almost nobody talks about. When you freeze that banana and then let it thaw, a process called retrogradation happens inside the starch. A portion of that regular starch converts into something called resistant starch. And resistant starch lives up to its name. It resists digestion. It does not get broken down into glucose. It passes through you almost untouched. The Johns Hopkins Patient Guide to Diabetes and the agricultural research published by Clemson University Extension both confirm the same thing. Resistant starch improves insulin sensitivity and significantly blunts the post-meal blood sugar response. Here is the 4-ingredient recipe I want you to write down. 1 ripe banana, sliced into coins, frozen for at least 4 hours. That triggers the resistant starch I just described. 2 tablespoons of natural peanut butter with no added sugar. That powerfully triggers GLP-1 and adds healthy fat for satiety. Half a teaspoon of true Ceylon cinnamon. This improves how your GLUT4 transporters carry glucose out of your blood. And 1 tablespoon of unsweetened pure cocoa powder. The epicatechin compound in cocoa supports your pancreatic beta cells, the very cells that produce insulin. Drop everything into a food processor or a strong blender. Blend until smooth. You will get a texture indistinguishable from soft serve, with sweetness coming entirely from the banana itself, no added sugar of any kind. The price? Under $2 a serving. Cheaper than Halo Top. No sugar alcohols to upset your gut. Real food, real nutrients. One important caution. Every body responds a little differently. The first time you try this, check your glucose meter 1 to 2 hours after eating, especially if your HbA1c is above 8.0 or if you are on insulin. Your meter tells the truth about your body. Now you have 5 ice creams to safely return to your freezer. But before you head to the store, I have to warn you about 3 products being marketed as safe for diabetics. And one of them may be sitting in your freezer right now. Let's begin counting down the 3 to avoid. Starting with warning number 3, and this one is going to feel counterintuitive at first. Low-fat, fat-free, and light ice cream. I know. For years, you have been told that fat is the enemy. So when you walked down the freezer aisle and saw fat-free on the label, you reached for it with a clear conscience. That instinct made perfect sense. But here is the cruel twist the food industry never told you. When manufacturers strip the fat out of ice cream, the product loses its richness. So to keep it palatable, they add more sugar. More sugar going in, and the fat break, the one that slowed everything down, is gone. The result? A sharper, faster, higher blood sugar spike than if you had just eaten the regular version. The data backs this up. The team at Signos tracked over 600 people using continuous glucose monitors and found that soft-serve and reduced-fat ice cream raised blood sugar by an average of 43.9 milligrams per deciliter. Regular full-fat ice cream? Only 35.4. That gap is real, and it is meaningful. I want you to hear me. This was not your fault. This was... After a cholesterol warning from your doctor, you switched to low-fat in good faith. That was a marketing victory, not a medical recommendation. The brands to leave on the shelf: Breyers fat-free, Edy's and Dreyer's slow-churned light, Skinny Cow, Sherbet, which is low in fat but loaded with sugar, and Sorbet, which is pure sugar in a fancy outfit with no break working at all. The shortcut for reading any label: if you see the words light, fat-free, low-fat, or skinny, put it back in the freezer. The next warning may be the most misunderstood food in the entire health aisle. Warning number 2. Commercial frozen yogurt. The product an entire generation has been told is the healthy alternative to ice cream. I want you to see this side by side because the numbers will shock you. Dannon Light and Fit frozen yogurt, marketed as the responsible choice, contains 21 grams of sugar in a half cup. Häagen-Dazs Vanilla, the premium full-fat ice cream you have been avoiding, 20 grams of sugar in the same half cup. Read that again. The frozen yogurt has more sugar than the ice cream it was supposed to replace. And it gets worse, because frozen yogurt is also low in fat. So you have more sugar going in, with no fat break to slow it down. Sugar hits the bloodstream faster, harder, sharper. It is the worst of both worlds, packaged with a healthy-looking label. Now if you walk into one of those self-serve frozen yogurt shops, the ones with the swirl machines and the topping bars, please listen carefully. A medium cup, by the time you add granola, chocolate sauce, and sprinkles, can carry 60 to 80 grams of sugar in a single serving. That is one of the highest glycemic loads you can buy in any food store, anywhere. I want to be very clear about one thing. The homemade frozen Greek yogurt I described earlier. That is a completely different food. I am not contradicting myself. What you make at home with full-fat Greek yogurt is one thing. What comes out of a commercial machine or a supermarket carton is another. The chains and brands to avoid: Pinkberry, Menchie's, 16 Handles, Red Mango, Yogurtland, the Yasso frozen yogurt pints, Dannon Light and Fit frozen yogurt, Stonyfield frozen yogurt. But the worst offender, the trap I promised to expose at the very start, is not frozen yogurt. The worst one wears the label that says safest. This is the most dangerous trap of all. Warning number 1, the most dangerous offender on this entire list: sugar-free ice cream sweetened with maltitol. This is a Trojan horse. It looks like a gift to people with diabetes. The words sugar-free printed proudly across the carton, the marketing aimed straight at your diagnosis. But hidden inside the ingredient list is something that attacks your blood sugar almost as hard as regular sugar does. Here are the numbers. Maltitol has a glycemic index between 35 in its powder form and 52 in its syrup form. Its insulin index sits at 27. That is dramatically higher than every other sugar alcohol on the market. Peer-reviewed nutrition research has stated it plainly. Maltitol has a significant impact on blood glucose, unlike erythritol, which has almost none. And then the cruel multiplier. Because the carton says sugar-free, people eat double the serving they would normally have. So the total glucose impact in real life sometimes ends up worse than if they had eaten regular ice cream. For someone over 60, there is one more danger I have to mention. Maltitol acts as a laxative. It causes diarrhea, bloating, and dehydration. And dehydration in an older body concentrates the glucose already in your blood, making the spike even sharper. Let me tell you about Kenneth. 71 years old, walked into my office with an HbA1c of 7.4, completely confused. He insisted he had not touched sugar in 6 months. I asked him to walk me through what he was eating. He proudly pulled the ingredient label from his pocket. He saved every label since his diagnosis. That was his habit. Breyer's no sugar added. 2 to 3 times a week. The third ingredient on that label, maltitol. I asked him to switch to Halo Top. 3 months later, his HbA1c came down to 6.6. What he said to me at that visit, I still remember. "Doctor, I did everything they told me to do, but it feels like somebody forgot to tell me one important piece of information. The brands to leave on the shelf: Breyer's no sugar added, Turkey Hill no sugar added, Edie's and Dreyer's no sugar added, and almost every store brand sugar-free version at the big chains. The 5-second label rule. Scan the first 3 ingredients. If you see maltitol, maltitol syrup, or sorbitol, put it down. You do not need to read another word. That is what I needed you to know. You now have enough to make a different decision the next time you walk down that freezer aisle." Let me pull it all together into one simple, practical rule you can live by. Ice cream was never the enemy. The kind of ice cream, and the moment you eat it, that is where the truth has been hiding all along. After years of being told to deprive yourself of every small pleasure, you have just taken back 5 safe choices, and you now have the tools to recognize the 3 traps that mislead the most well-intentioned people. You can enjoy one of life's simple pleasures again, without guilt, without fear. I want to give you 4 specific actions you can take starting tonight. Call this your ice cream after 60 protocol. First, open your freezer tonight. Pick up every sugar-free product on the shelf and read the first 3 ingredients. If you see maltitol, throw it out. Second, the timing rule. Only eat ice cream after a dinner that contains at least 20 grams of protein and some real fat. Never on an empty stomach. Never between meals. Third, portion discipline. Scoop half a cup into a small bowl and put the carton straight back in the freezer. Never, ever eat from the carton. Fourth, gather your own data. Check your glucometer 1 to 2 hours after trying any new product. Your meter speaks louder than any chart in any book. Of the 8 ice creams I covered today, which one is in your freezer right now? After watching this video, which one will you try this week and which one will you throw out tonight? Type the names in the comments. I want to know. And if there is someone you love who gave up ice cream the day they got their diagnosis, send them this video. They deserve to hear the truth their doctor may never have shared. I'm Dr. Claire Whitmore. I want to see you healthy, strong, and enjoying the best years of your life with the people you love. This video is for education. Please do not change your insulin, your metformin, or any diabetes medication based on what I shared today. Any change to your prescriptions must go through the doctor who knows your full history. Have a healthy week ahead. Subscribe and stay close. I will see you in the next one.